Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention?
I am that dude, Bodkins. Patty to patty. That's ridiculous. No way. There's nobody else out there. He's your guy. Give a big round of applause for the one and only BodkinShow. I'm going to repeat that again, folks.
Great start to the show here. This fucking computer. All right, folks. Jesus, sorry. I don't know. The intro music was messed up. Computer was freezing. So, hey, we're back here. Welcome to another great episode of the Bodkin Show. You know what it is. This is our Week 3 NFL Week 3 reaction show. I mean, what would it be without any? Wouldn't be a Bodkin Show without some screw-ups, right? So, lots to get into. Another wild week. Some major upsets. If you missed it, check out our Week 3 preview show that happened on Wednesday. There was no Head Kicks and Haymakers show this Saturday. There was no fight, so we decided to we'll put it on next week. We'll be back with Head Kicks and Haymakers on Sunday morning. So we'll be back. But let's get into it tonight, folks. Our NFL Week 3 reaction show. As always, I am joined by my main man, Craig with a K. Craig, we're off to an awesome start here, as you can see. I don't know what the hell happened with that intro.
Hey, it's okay sometimes, especially the days when we don't have our tech guy with us on the show. Some things might happen, but hey, the train moves on, and that's what we do.
Hey, the train is moving on, Craig. The Packers, Bears, both 2-1, but we had some nice victories. But I had to bring this man on because no team probably had a better victory today than this man's team. Filling in for Mr. Smoking Amigo Kenny Miller is our guy, bringing him back, Johnny Cruz, who is flying high off the Dolphins win. Johnny, fins up, my man. How are you feeling after that win today?
I'm feeling about as good as you can possibly feel, bro. Yeah, I'm definitely riding that cloud nine right now. It got ugly there at the end. It got a little scary there. I started pulling out some hairs, but the defense stiffened up at the end there, and we pulled out a much needed win. It's the first time in 8 games, we had to snap that 7-game losing streak to Buffalo. So it was definitely a good one. I appreciate you having me, bro.
We appreciate it too, Johnny. I mean, if I was you, I'd probably be 3 sheets to the win, so celebrating a win like that. But hey, Dolphins in first place, and so you can't complain. Something that maybe we didn't think we'd see, but hey, here we are. Fins up, man. Let's go ahead and get into it. Let's start the reaction from Thursday. Browns were -4.5 favorites as that game was taken in Cleveland. Me and Craig were both on the Steelers on that game, but I mean, Jacoby Brissett, Amari Cooper was the thing rolling. I mean, and Mitch Trubisky, it's not like he's throwing these crucial picks, but it's just like the Steelers can't get their offense going. Only 270 yards for Mitch. Najee Harris really nowhere to be found. 15 carries, 56 yards. You get into the receiving, 8 receptions for 84 yards for Deontay Johnson. I mean, and other than that, I mean, this game was a little bit closer than what the score was. The Browns was able to sneak one in there at the very end. That's the only real kind of the reason they covered. But Brissett, I mean, 2 touchdowns. Nick Chubb ran all over the Steelers, 23 carries, 113 yards, 1 touchdown. I mean, I mentioned it. Amari Cooper, 7 catches for 101. David Njoku sighting here, folks. 9 receptions, 89 yards for a touchdown. Johnny, we'll start with you, man. I mean, Browns really look top to bottom better than the Steelers here with Mitch at the helm there.
Yeah, a lot of people were worried about the Browns, with Deshaun being out for the first, 10 games or whatever. But they're not asking Jacoby Brissett to do too much, and they've got one of, if not the best, running back tandems in the NFL with Chubb and Hunt. So I was picking Cleveland to win that game anyway. Mitch ain't playing badly, but there's nothing. I mean, he ain't gonna win the game for you. So it's a little surprising that Mike Tomlin after the game definitively said that Kenny Pickett is not starting next week. So I don't know. He said apparently he's gonna ride with Mitch Trubisky. So we'll see what happens. But Cleveland just ran all over him. It was typical Cleveland football, man. Run the ball and play good defense.
Yeah, Craig, I mean, you saw the story with Mitch in Chicago. They got Kenny Pickett there. Fans already kind of screaming Kenny Pickett, but are you on the still Mitch train here, or is it time to maybe bring in the relief?
This is the NFL, man, and it's tough when you got a draft pick like Kenny Pickett sitting behind you. The city loves him. I mean, the fans want Kenny Pickett. So the more that Mitch struggles, the louder that noise is going to be. The big takeaway for me in this game, though, was Cleveland's offense, man. I mean, I thought that I didn't only take Pittsburgh to cover. I took Pittsburgh to win the game because I thought Pittsburgh defense was just going to make plays when they needed to. And Jacoby Brissett looked sharp in this game, and Pittsburgh just couldn't stop Nick Chubb. They couldn't stop the ground game. And, that to me, that was my biggest takeaway, was that Cleveland was able to hang almost 30 points on that Pittsburgh defense.
Yeah, they could not stop Amari Cooper. It was just absolutely unreal. The Browns look good, 2-1 here, tied for first in their division. The Steelers fall to 1-2. I mean, just offensively, it's been a struggle, Johnny, for the Steelers. It's, almost atrocious. Like, is it because Najee's banged up, or is it Mitch? Or, they can't. Is it the offensive coordinator, Matt Canada? Because you thought maybe they would ramp up this offense here without Big Ben, but it just looks bad.
It does look bad. I think it's a combination of both as far as the Najee and Mitch part of it. I'm sure the injury isn't helping Najee, but they're stacking the box because nobody is afraid of Mitch, which is, again, why you might as well give the kid a chance, in my opinion, as far as, going with Pickett. Because, like I said, defenses are not going to respect Mitch Trubisky, so they're just going to stack the box to stop Najee. So I know that, Pittsburgh just paid Mitch Trubisky however much they paid him to run the show this year. And they must be seeing something in practice that is telling them that he ain't ready, because why not just put him out there and let him take his lumps now, in my opinion, because it's only going to get worse, and especially in that division if Cincinnati turns it around. I mean, Cleveland is balling, so I don't know, man. I'm worried about the streak that Mike Tomlin has of never having a losing season. I think that might end this season.
They fall to 1-3. It's time to bring the kid in. So from Mitch Trubisky's new team to Mitch Trubisky's old team, Bears handle business in the Lovie Smith revenge game. It was a close game. Davis Mills threw a bad interception late in this game that was able to seal it for the Bears. Dameon Pierce had himself a day, 20 carries, 80 yards, and a touchdown. Nothing else really to note of offensively either one of these teams. Bad. Justin Fields, 2 picks, 8 of 17. Their defense kept them in it. The big part here, Khalil Herbert, 20 carries, 157 yards, 2 touchdowns, as David Montgomery got banged up in this game. Again, not much offensively here for the Bears, Craig, but they get the job done. Roquan Smith, the old, who held in, so to speak, able to get that interception and get the Bears victory here. What's your thoughts here on your Bears as they move 2-1, but it hasn't been pretty?
No, it hasn't been pretty at all. We were talking about Pittsburgh's offense looking atrocious. I mean, I don't know what's worse than atrocious, but that's where the Bears offense would have to be right now, because it has not been pretty. The fact that the Bears have won 2 out of 3 games looking as terrible as they have, I guess is somewhat of a good sign. I mean, defensively, I think they've somewhat been a surprise. Now they did week 1, kind of the weather, I think favored them. And then they didn't look spectacular against Green Bay on the defensive side, but the offenses look bad in all 3 games. So right now, that's the biggest thing moving forward. I mean, the Bears, again, I don't know if they're just not, if they're trying to protect Justin Fields or if they just don't think he's capable, but they're just not letting him throw the ball. I mean, I saw a stat the other day. There's like over 10 wide receivers in the league that have more completions than the Chicago Bears as a team. And
wow.
Justin Fields is throwing the ball less than 20 times a game. They're just relying on the run. You're only going to be able to win so many games that way. So I think at some point this year, man, the Bears, win or lose, you got to cut Justin Fields loose and see what you got in him. So, yeah, I mean, 3 weeks in, they've got 2 wins, but like you said, it's definitely not been pretty.
Yeah, Tanner's chiming in. I want to skip this week. It's Tanner on my new channel, solo channel. So Tanner's trying to go solo, separating from the sports buffoons. It seems like, not that there's rift there. It seems like Tanner Tanner puts out more content than anybody I've seen. So, hey, I love Tanner to death. My co-host tomorrow night on Buffoon and Bodkin. So, but Johnny, what's your thoughts here on Bears Texans? I mean, like I said, Mills threw a bad interception, but that's going to happen when you're, for David Mills. But I thought I had the Texans to win this week.
Yeah, I'm actually a Davis Mills fan. I think he can turn into a pretty good player. Of course, that was a horrible pick there at the end. I gotta agree with Craig. I don't know what the problem is with Chicago and Justin Fields. I mean, I don't know what their expectations were for this season, but I mean, let the kid let it rip and let's see what he can do. I mean, it does seem like they're scared to just let him throw the ball around the yard. So unless they're seeing something in practice, like I said earlier, I don't get it. I mean, luckily they had a big game from the backup running back. What was it? You mentioned it earlier.
Khalil Herbert.
I mean, talk about it. I mean, he put on a show. That was a hell of a game he did. But they're 2-1. So you know what I'm saying? You got to take it. The defense is playing pretty good. I mean, they didn't look so good last week against Green Bay, but come on, I mean, that's Aaron Rodgers, so he can do that to you. But I mean, you're 2-1, so you got to be happy with that. But I am a little concerned with, I don't know why they got to release, Justin Fields and just let him, let it rip, man. I mean, it's not like you were expecting to win the division. Just let him, let him throw that rock around and see what happens.
Let it rip to who, though? That's my question. I mean, Tanner's kind of got the same point here. He says, I don't get that whole team. I don't get it either, Craig. I mean, I understand that, Eberflus isn't a, offensive-minded guy, but that offense, man, I mean, it looks worse than what it did with Matt Nagy a year ago.
Yeah, Eberflus isn't an offensive guy, but Luke Getsy was supposed to be. That's why they went out and got him. He was supposed to be the offensive mind for this team. It is a young GM, young coaching staff, young quarterback, a lot of young players. I mean, definitely going to be some growing pains. But like I said, I feel like, especially the spot the Bears are at the end of this season, I saw a thing going into the offseason, Bears have got like $107 million free cap space, and the next team behind them's got like 52. So the Bears got a ton of money to spend. So I think they're in a spot where this year, like, you just have to see and know what you have in Justin Fields. So they can't keep, letting him throw the ball 15 to 18 times a game, especially games when they're trailing and games when they need to get the ball moving up and down the field. So, I mean, to me, that's the most important thing is you gotta see what you got in the young quarterback that you traded up to get. You got to see if he's, the face of the franchise or not. So they got to let Justin Fields play a little.
All right, let's get into the next game here. We got the Raiders. It was a pick'em game between the 0-2 Texans, or 0-2 Raiders, and 0-2 Titans. The Titans were coming off a bad beatdown the Bills gave them on Monday night. The Raiders coming off the heartbreaking loss to the Cardinals week 2. But Derek Carr, another nice game, 303 yards, 2 touchdowns, did have 1 interception. This team, the Raiders were just down, it seemed like, the whole game and could never really get going. Josh Jacobs, 13 carries for 66 yards. And then look at the receiving. I mean, Devontae Adams, only 5 catches for 36 yards, did have the 1 touchdown. You get to the Titans. This was what the Titans wanted. You know, you get a decent game from Tannehill, 264 yards and a tutter. But more importantly, this right here, kids, 20 carries for 85 yards and a touchdown out of Derrick Henry. Tannehill did have a nice rushing added a rushing touchdown there. But, I mean, Craig, what's going on here with the Raiders? 0-3. And this was a team that went out and they got flashy, made the big splash to get Devontae, made the big splash and brought in Chandler Jones. And, I mean, got rid of, I was a proponent of Coach Bisaccia to stay, and they bring in Josh McDaniels, and they just don't look very good here.
No, I took the Raiders in the picks, man, and this game came on. It was the game on TV here locally, and as soon as it came on, it wasn't on for a couple minutes, and I just thought to myself, man, why did I take the Raiders in this game? The Titans at home, man, Vrabel is just a good coach, and the Raiders have got a lot of question marks, man, and they did go out and get Devontae. They've got some nice pieces on offense. But the Raiders are the Raiders, and still in that division, I think Derek Carr's the worst quarterback in the division out of the 4, So it's not going to be easy sledding at all for the Raiders. I thought they really needed this game more, and they were going to treat it as such because in that division you can't be 0-3 and expect to, dig out of that hole. They were lucky that other teams in the division lost today. But that's just not where you want to be in the AFC West starting the season out 0-3. The Titans, man, you alluded to it. This is the game that they want. Get up early and feed Derrick Henry, and they were able to do that the whole game. That's the kind of game that the Titans love to play, and that's the kind of game the Titans usually win, man, and they were able to do that.
Yeah, we got some quick comments here real quick before I get to you, Johnny. Tanner asked what was Derrick Henry's receiving yards. Actually, Derrick Henry – 5 receptions for 58 yards for Derrick Henry, and I picked the Titans too. And Kenny's chiming in while he's changing diapers here. He said my computer is messing up here. There it goes. Jeez, come on. Titans were looking like trash is why you picked the Raiders. 100%. You're coming off that Monday night beatdown that the Bills gave them. It was hard to pick the Titans, even at home. Johnny, I mean, I don't know. You weren't our guest picker this week, but, I don't know what your thoughts were on this. 2 teams that needed a win badly, and the Titans, got the win in a bad way and exactly what they needed to do.
Yeah, they played their game. I was just looking at the 5 catches for 58 yards for Derrick Henry. That's what the Tennessee Titans want to do. That's what Mike Vrabel wants to do. He doesn't want Tannehill to have to lead the team, so they played their game. I would have picked the Raiders going into this game, to be totally honest, because I just felt they desperately needed this win. But it's almost like they don't have an identity. You know what I'm saying? Like, you paid all that money for, to get Devontae. Then the first game, he was targeted like crazy. And then it seemed like, Derek Carr kind of went away from that the second game. And then this game here, he's only got 5 catches. Like what are y'all doing? I mean, I don't know. I have no idea like I said, I have no idea what the Raiders' identity is. As far as, the type of offense they want to do. I mean, if McDaniels is trying to run the same type of offense with Derek Carr like he did with Tom Brady, Derek Carr is no Tom Brady, nowhere near it. So I don't know exactly what they're trying to do over there. I mean, I like Josh Jacobs, you know what I'm saying? So I would establish the running game more if it was me, but, I mean, they did go down pretty quick in that game. So I don't know, man. I picked the Raiders to be second or third in that division. I thought the Broncos were going to struggle, but it looks like it's the Raiders, man. They're in for a long season if they're going to keep going at this rate.
Yeah, Kenny says, "Where's that team we saw against the Cardinals?" Well, for 3/4 of that team, well, first half looked good, but they haven't looked good since. So, and Tanner chiming in here as well. He picked the Raiders as well. I mean, Titans. That's the game that they had to have, and that's the type of game they needed when when they needed it the most. They got the game from Derrick Henry. All right, let's move on to the next game here. One of the shockers of the day. We kind of talked about the Fins. That's still probably, well, I don't even know that. We still got another shocker. I say that. One of the shockers of the day, right? Colts beating the Chiefs 20-17. Matt Ryan leads them all the way down with about 27 seconds. Scores a touchdown. There's 20 seconds left. Colts pull it out, get their first win. My Super Bowl pick finally gets their first win after I jump off the bandwagon last week. Patty Mahomes game, 262, one touchdown, did have an interception. Really not much in the rushing yards. 7 carries for Clyde Edwards-Helaire, did have it says 0 yards, so he must have but did have 1 touchdown. Jerick McKinnon, 7 carries for 20 yards. And then you look at the passing, again, they just continue to spread it around. 5 receptions for Juju. Travis Kelce, 4 receptions, did have a drop. The problem was the kicking game for the Chiefs. Missed an extra point, missed a field goal. Their defense stepped up big a few times, stopping the Colts on 4th down. But there was a 4th down late on that drive, that game-winning drive. Matt Ryan was able to sneak it in. Matt Ryan, a much better game than what he's had. His best game in a Colt uniform, 222 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jonathan Taylor, 21 carries, 71 yards. Michael Pittman Jr. led the way in receiving with 8 catches, 72 yards there. Jelani Woods, 2 catches, 13 yards for 2 touchdowns, including the game winner. Johnny, Colts finally get off the schneid here. Shock KC here, and Tanner changes this podcast to Whiskey Sports Podcast because that's what he has to drink straight because he's crying because the Chiefs lost.
Yeah, this one was pretty shocking, to be totally honest. I had no trust in Indianapolis, especially the way that the first 2 weeks went. They hold Jonathan Taylor to 71 yards rushing, and they still lose this game. Not a typical Pat Mahomes game, 20 of 35, so he wasn't very efficient. 262. It looks like they abandoned the run kind of early in that game, but luckily for Kansas City and for Tanner, everybody else in the division lost. The Broncos are playing right now, but the Raiders are the Raiders. We just talked about them, and the Chargers just got. We'll talk about them in a little bit, but we know, what I'm saying? Everybody lost, so that's the one good thing for KC. And next week, Pack can obviously drop 40-something on the next opponent. But it just seemed like a very untypical, Kansas City game. There was some bickering on the sideline between Mahomes and Bieniemy.
Yeah.
Something might be brewing over there, but I wouldn't worry about it long term, but that was an ugly loss right there, man.
Johnny hit the nail on the head. Ugly loss. We both had I think most people had the Chiefs. They were 5.5 favorites going into Indy. Indy, kept it close, and you just thought maybe the Patty Mahomes would lead the way there, but the special teams or the Chiefs let them down. Maybe they should go back to the safety that was kicking extra points in week 1 and field goals because the backup kicker was awful today.
But still, they held Kansas City to 3 points in the second half.
Yeah,
that's come on.
Kansas City's missing Bunkner for sure, but I think the stat on it was like 18 carries for 31 yards. The Chiefs as a whole today just couldn't get the run game going. I don't know, man. In the pre-show, I said, man, this game just had the feeling of a trap game to me, like a game that the Colts had looked terrible for 2 games might be able to pull out. And I said in the pre-show, if the Colts were going to pull it out, I thought it was a game where Jonathan Taylor was going to go for like 200 yards. So kind of like Johnny said, man, if you tell me that, Kansas City is going to hold Jonathan Taylor to 71 yards, I tell you the Chiefs win by 10 or more, So The Chiefs just weren't able to get it going today. Good teams have bad days. I kind of think that this was just one of them. I'm not taking, too much away on Kansas City's side. The fact that Mahomes and Bieniemy were having a little spat, the media is probably going to blow that up. But I'm not going to take too much out of it unless we see, bigger problems out of Kansas City moving forward.
True that.
Yeah, definitely for sure. I thought the Colts here, like you said, Craig, if they were going to win that game, I thought Jonathan Taylor would go for, a quite big day. But kudos to the Colts defense, even without Shaq Leonard out there, that to hold the Chiefs to only 3 points in the second half. I don't care if Tyreek's not out there or they're missing guys. Like to hold Pat Mahomes and then that crew to only 3 points in the second half, that tells you a lot of how good the Colts can be. And that's the type of Colts team that we expected to see, at the beginning of the year. That's the team I expected to see when I picked them to make a run at the Super Bowl. But, hey, can they keep it going? That division's still real weak. But we'll see. Hey, hopefully this is the start. Let's go, Indy. Here we go. It's better to be 0-1-2 than 0-3. Speaking of another, maybe the wildest game of the day, Johnny's Dolphins shocked the Bills 21-19. This is a wild back and forth game. Tua gets hurt. I thought he was out. He was stumbling around like I do after a few shots of tequila, and somehow is able to get back in the game. Comes back in the game. I thought it was Teddy Two Gloves time. Tua comes back in. Dolphins are able to hold. The Dolphins defense to hold the Bills to 19 points, who have actually been an absolute weapon, whether it was the defense or the heat. It was a combination of both. Josh Allen looked somewhat like a human being out there, had a couple turnovers. Johnny, talk to us about this Fins-Bills game here. You got to be on cloud nine.
Yeah, I'm loving it. I'm loving the win. It got a little scary there towards the end, but the defense definitely stepped up there to hold that offense to 17 points. They got the 2 points off the safety with the block punt, so they really held them to 17 points. And I saw a stat there where the Bills had 90 offensive plays, and they only scored 17 points. So yes, props to the Dolphins defense. They were definitely bending, but they didn't break, because Josh Allen still went off for 400 yards and 2 touchdowns and some big runs to get first downs like Josh Allen does. He's going to be a problem for the AFC for a minute, to be honest. But the D stepped up. The offense didn't do as much, but they did what they needed to do. And I agree with you with the Tua thing. He looked like he was basically getting a standing A count there, because he looked like he was out of it for a second there. So I was worried about that, because as soon as Teddy came in, he did not look good. Those 3 plays that he was in there were just ugly looking. So I'm glad Tua was able to come back. They're claiming that it was really a back injury, not a head injury, but the NFLPA is already wanting to investigate that, so we'll see what happens. But, when it came down to it at the end there was a big 3rd and 22, and Tua hit Waddle on a beautiful 47-yard pass to get him down to the 5-yard line. We wound up scoring a touchdown there to take the lead, so Tua did just enough what he had to do to get us that win. But yeah, the defense definitely stepped up this game, especially after giving up all they did to Baltimore last week. It was good for the defense to step it up this week. Yeah,
so kind of the stat line here, like you alluded to, Josh Allen still had 400 yards, 2 touchdowns. Nice, 8 carries for 47. Devin Singletary had a heck of a game receiving, 9 receptions, 78 yards, 1 touchdown. Diggs was held to 7 receptions for 74, no touchdowns. Isaiah McKenzie, 7 catches for 76 yards. Not much other than, Singletary's receiving, but not much in the running game. The Fins here, Tua had the 1 touchdown, only 186 yards. Chase Edmonds, 6 carries for 21 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jalen Waddle, though, 4 receptions for 102. Tyreek Hill, 2 receptions, 33 yards. Craig, everybody thought this was going to be a 40-40 type game, and instead we get a 21-19 dogfight. This goes to show you, we know nothing, right?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's the NFL. It's possibly the most unpredictable sport, man. Any Sunday, anything can happen. This is another one, man. You look at the stat sheet, and you tell me Josh Allen's going to throw the ball 63 times for 400 yards, and that Tua is going to throw for 186 yards. I'm going to say the Bills probably won by 20. But man, credit to Miami's defense, like you said, bend but don't break. I mean, I saw that same stat: 90 plays. You let the Bills' offense have 90 plays and only score 3 times. I mean, that's the way the Bills looked week 1 and 2, man. It's crazy. Huge game for Miami. Like I said on the pre-show, this was a measuring stick game for Miami to see, if they're for real or not. We've seen Baltimore kind of throw away some big leads late in games before against teams that they shouldn't have. So I felt like this week was a big test for Miami, and they proved even when Tua gets hurt and Tyreek and Jalen Waddle aren't going off, that they've got enough pieces to play with the best teams in the league. So I mean, I think this week really proved a lot to me for Miami, a whole lot more than last week. So I'm believing in the Dolphins here.
Yeah, the Dolphins won last week with their offense, right? And then their defense wins in this game. Kenny kind of in the comments there alluded to it. A lot of drops on the Bills, a bad holding. They, beat themselves at points, a holding penalty that got them out of field goal range. I mean, then the guy doesn't get out of bounds, probably should have ran out of bounds. And then there might have been a little bit of 3 seconds left if he could able to get out. Instead, he tried to turns up field there. I think that was McKenzie. I mean, Glenn Dorsey was absolutely Ken Dorsey, not Glenn Dorsey. Ken Dorsey was absolutely enraged. If you catch that video, he's throwing papers and throwing just look like my toddler when I tell him no. So, I mean,
hey,
Johnny Finn's got a defense.
I got love for you, Kenny, but you coming off like a bitter Bills fan, bro. I'm seeing a ton of tweets from Bills fans talking about the same thing. Oh, that was our practice squad on defense. We're short Byron Jones at corner. We had a couple offensive linemen out. It's the NFL. It is what it is. You know what I'm saying? You play who you got out there. You know what I'm saying? So the defense won the game regardless of if it was the Bills, practice squad defense. Their offense only scored 17 points. So, you know what I'm saying? They did what they had to do. Josh Allen did not choke.
Josh Allen did not choke. Wasn't a choke job by Josh Allen. I mean, they did have it down up there. They did have it.
2 touchdowns, no picks. I mean, that's still Josh Allen had a day.
Yeah. I mean, the Dolphins did force some turnovers, a couple fumbles and things like that, but no, it wasn't. Josh Allen didn't choke.
They had a chance at 2 picks on that final drive too, and they dropped them. So I mean, the drops went both ways, to be totally honest there, because we could have ended the game a little earlier if Javon Holland could have held on to an easy pick that went right through his hands. But the defense gave up a bunch of yards in between the 20s, which is fine with me. Give up all the yards as long as you ain't giving up points. So a win is a win, and I'll take it. So Buffalo fans, y'all be all right for a week.
Yeah. I mean, it's Kenny's mouthing me because I said it was a shocker. I thought it was. I mean, it is a shocker though. The shocker of the Fins not really just winning, but the fact that it was 21-19 is a shocker. Like everybody had this game 45-45, or because the Bills secondary was banged up, you thought the Fins should have put up more points, and then the Bills, what their offenses looked like through 2 weeks. I mean, it's been an absolutely wagon, and both defenses showed up. Fins in first place, Bills take their first loss, but I don't think that, anybody's like souring out on the Bills here. They'll bounce back and they'll be ready. Nobody's walking through any season undefeated anytime soon, kids.
Right. Totally agree with that. And the weather had a big factor, bro, because there were a bunch of guys cramping up and having to go into the locker room to get IV. So it was a hard-fought game. Like I said, it was a defensive struggle there, and I don't think, Tua was not the same after he hurt his back or whatever it is that they're trying to say.
His back,
In that first half, he was going blow for blow with Josh. You know what I'm saying? Because when they went up 14, he came right down the field and tied it up right away, and then we were driving when he got hurt right before the half. So who knows how that affected him going into the second half? But again, it is what it is. I was expecting a lot more points from both teams, but it turned out to be more of a defensive game. And, like I said, Josh Allen put up a bunch of yards, but ultimately he didn't put up enough points, and that's what matters.
Kenny's chiming in here, and he said, back of his head. Yeah, exactly. Back of his back of his head.
Yeah, that's what it looked like. It looked like his head bouncing off the ground was kind of the problem. And, the weather definitely was an issue in this game. But, these teams, when they meet in Buffalo, the weather could be an issue in a whole different way, So,
absolutely.
Going down to Miami early in the season, man, it's tough on anybody. It's tough on everybody. That's a tough place to play when it's 100 degrees and over,
Yeah, Kelly Weigel's chiming in there. He said that was the only bet he won all week. It was the under, and then Landa said money to the doctor that cleared that concussion. Hey, exactly right. Hey, that's that any given Sunday type doctor. Hey, tell him he can play. You got a brain bleed, tell him he can play. He'll be all right. Pump him full of Vicodin. Hey, let's get into the next game. Craig, I don't know who you picked, but I know I had the Lions to cover at plus 6.5. That was my lock of the day, and they didn't let me down. The Lions had a lead late. I thought they were gonna pull this one out. In fact, but Lions gonna lion, Craig, and lose this one 24-28. Kirk Cousins to Adam Thielen, late touchdown, wins the game. What's your thoughts here on Lions and Minnesota and the Vikings?
Yeah, I had Detroit covering the spread too. If there's one thing we've learned about Detroit since last year, it's they're a good bet to cover. They seem to do it quite a bit. They seem to be in a lot of close games. And so far, man, I feel like I'm going to sound like a broken record when it comes to the Lions this year, but this is the same Lions team from last year. If they get a big lead, they let a team come back. If they fall, down a lot, they seem to come back. And they always seem to find a way to lose it late. It's the same Lions team. It's the same show from last year. This team has just got to find a way to start winning games and putting them away. In the division, I got Minnesota ahead of Detroit, so I feel like this game went kind of the way that it should. Minnesota should win the home game against Detroit. But I definitely had the Lions covering because, that's what the Lions do. Ever since MCDC showed up, the Lions have been a spread covering machine. But they got to figure out a way to win the game, man. You tell me Justin Jefferson has the kind of game that he has against them. Dalvin Cook gets hurt, and, they're up by double digits. The Lions should have won this game. So they can't be happy. They gotta know that they gotta learn how to win these games, man. Or it's gonna be the same stories last year.
Yeah, speaking of the Lions, so here's the stat line before we get to you, Johnny. Jared Goff, 277, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Jamal Williams had himself a day, 20 carries, 87 yards, and 2 touchdowns. DeAndre Swift only 7 carries for 31. Josh Reynolds had a nice game, 6 receptions, 96 yards. Amon St. Brown, 6 receptions, 73 yards, got dinged up a little bit. And then you look on the Vikings. This was the 1 o'clock Kirk Cousins game, man. Perfect time. 260 yards, 2 touchdowns. Dalvin Cook got banged up. Separated shoulder, is going to try to wear a brace, but before he got hurt, 17 carries, 96 yards, 1 touchdown. Alexander Madison, who's probably better backups in this league, 7 carries for 28 yards and 1 touchdown. Then KJ Osborne led the way, or Adam Thielen led the way, 6 receptions, 61 yards, 1 touchdown. KJ Osborne, 5 receptions. Justin Jefferson, only 3 catches for 14 yards. Johnny, this was prime. This was 1 o'clock Kirk Cousins, but the Lions have got to learn to win these games because they're in every damn game there is.
That's the thing right there is that, they're putting up points. So it's obviously a defensive issue that they're having. I'm not the biggest Jared Goff fan, but he's not playing horribly. But to give up 14 points in that fourth quarter when they were winning the whole game, you got to feel for Dan Campbell and them. Like Craig said, they got to learn how to win games. But I don't know. You know what I'm saying? They need a big pickup on defense. So next year's draft better be all defensive players or something, man, because they're letting everybody score on them. And they, I mean, like I said, they could put up points because they've been putting up points all 3 games. But I thought they had this game, man. I feel for them, bro. That was heartbreaking to give it up 14 points there in that fourth quarter, man. That's
I mean, like Kenny's saying, he was blown coverage on that game winner. I mean, it's always something for the Lions. It's a missed tackle, a blown coverage, always something there. The Lions gonna lion, man. That's what they're gonna do. Detroit's gonna Detroit, right? I mean,
the sad part is that they look. I mean, they play good football, but they just. You know what I'm saying? They just crumble at the end. Like Craig said, they just don't know how to win games and stuff. So, I mean, you can't help but say the Lions are going to lion, unfortunately, because it looks, the end result looks the same.
Yeah, they're in Vikings in first place, tied 2-1 with the Bears and the Packers, who we'll get to later on. Detroit 1-2, but been in every game. Let's move on here. A game I thought the Ravens were gonna choke it away again. Mac Jones gets banged up at the end here, but Ravens on top of the Patriots most of the way, 37-26. I mean, Johnny, Lamar Jackson continues. It's a two-man race right now, Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson? Who you like better for MVP? Because both these boys are putting up great numbers.
Yeah, Lamar that's back-to-back, just ridiculous performances. Not just in the air with the 4 touchdowns, but another 100-yard rushing game and another touchdown. Lamar is getting more and more expensive every week for Baltimore. So he's going off with Josh. It's between him and Josh Allen, unless Pat Mahomes or somebody else comes away with a great rest of the season. I think it is a battle between Lamar and Josh Allen. They're both just playing out of their minds right now. But New England looked like they were gonna creep back, but Baltimore pulled away there at the end. And I don't know. I mean, I'm not big on Mac Jones anyway. I mean, I feel bad for the kid. Obviously, I don't want the kid to be hurt, but I'm not the biggest Mac Jones fan. I mean, I think he's all right. I don't think he's not one of those. He's not gonna win you the game. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't usually make too many mistakes to where he'll lose you the game, but he's not going to win many games on his own. So this is kind of what I was expecting, to be quite honest. I figured Baltimore, especially after that heartbreaking loss last week with Miami coming back on them, I expected them to bounce back, and it looks like a typical Baltimore game, man. They ran the ball well, and Lamar did Lamar stuff.
Yeah, I mean, Lamar did Lamar stuff. Remember when they said Lamar couldn't throw? I mean, he's not throwing for a lot of yards, 218 yards, but he's 18-29, pretty accurate, 4 touchdowns. Again, like you alluded to, 11 carries, 170 yards. Tanner, if you're still listening, I told you J.K. Dobbins wasn't going to get more than 15 carries. Well, guess what? Bodkins is right again, baby. 7 carries for 23 yards. I tried telling you I would never start J.K. Dobbins this week. I probably wouldn't start him next week in fantasy purposes. I'd probably wait 2 to 3 weeks until he gets his legs underneath him. Just listen to me for once. Mark Andrews, nice game. 8 receptions, 89 yards, 2 touchdowns. Devin Duvernay, he seems to find the end zone some way, how, whether it's kick returns, receiving touchdowns, rushing touchdowns. He finds the end zone every week. 2 receptions, 25 yards for a touchdown. You look at the Patriots, Mac Jones, 3 interceptions, 321 yards rushing. But, I mean, Ramon Stevenson, 12 carries, had a touchdown. Damian Harris, 11 carries for 41, a touchdown. But, Craig, I mean, the Patriots aren't good enough for Mac Jones to throw 3 interceptions, and this was still a close game.
Yeah, I mean, it was close at times. It was semi-close at times, but I feel like Baltimore always kind of was in control of this game. It kind of always felt that way. Like Johnny said, Lamar was doing Lamar stuff. We say Chargers going to Charger, Lions going to Lion. Well, Lamar going to Lamar. 4 passing touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown. They said last week he outrushed his opponent's team. And then this week he was only 38 yards shy of outrushing New England by himself. So Lamar was my preseason MVP pick, and so far it's looking good, man. He's been holding out for that contract, and like you said, every week Lamar's just getting more expensive. Baltimore is going to be a real problem this year, man. I mean, the AFC is loaded, but I feel like Baltimore is one of the teams you can't sleep on. MVP-wise, him and Josh Allen, I mean, I think 3 weeks in, it's a little too early to say it's a two-headed race because there's just so many good dudes in the AFC. But right now, I mean, kind of like Johnny said, Baltimore let that game slip away from them last week. I felt like they had to make a statement this week, and they look pretty good. Lamar Jackson just out there doing Lamar Jackson stuff. They did say, I was reading, they did say high ankle sprain, I think, for Mac Jones. So could be an issue for New England.
Yeah, they say he's going to have more x-rays done tomorrow. I mean, the Ravens got to get that secondary fixed. I know they did have 3 interceptions today, but at times it's just real questionable and real suspect. But, hey, I did this last week for Lamar. Beep, beep, beep. That's the Brinks truck. Hold on. Let me get 2 Brinks trucks because that's how much it's going to need. It's going to be beep, beep, beep. Hold. All right, hold. One more now. Beep, 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 beep. Because that man I mean, he is going to cash the bank. I mean, pay that man his money. That's
I got a question for you guys, bro. Is Mark Andrews the best tight end in football right now?
No, but he might be the most. Him and Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce to me is probably the best, but Andrews and Kelce are probably the 2 most important tight ends to their team. Okay,
because it seems like he balls out every week, man. He's a hell of a player. I'm just curious. I mean, I know Travis Kelce is a future Hall of Famer, but I don't know.
He's. I mean, I feel like he's got to be in the conversation. You know, I mean, him and Travis Kelce won too. You know, I mean, if you have to line him up, I feel like just Travis Kelce's been doing it for so long, and he's just always been that guy. But here, these last couple of years, man, Mark Andrews right there with him. And Mark Andrews even showed when Lamar was hurt, man. It's not because of Lamar. I mean, Mark Andrews just a really good tight end.
Yeah, a lot of people are in here in the comments saying it's still Kelce, but I mean, you know, Andrews is the only dude that Lamar trusts. I mean, really, I mean, I'd say Bateman's right there too, is getting that trust from him. But yeah, I would say those Kelce and Andrews, and then it's you know maybe George Kittle somewhere down there too, but Kittle's been banged up this year. So right now it's those 2 for sure. And they're definitely the most important 2, especially right now because the Chiefs don't have that true number 1 receiver anymore. And, you know, the Ravens have never really had that true number 1 receiver as far as like a guy that's, you know, I think Rashad Bateman's getting there, but not quite there yet. Let's get into the next game. Let me find it on the list here. Jeez. Bengals bounce back. My boy Joey Burrow and the Bodkins Bengals bounce back. Craig, 27-12. Just put it on the Jets. I mean, they were fighting their coaches on the sidelines. Jets felt good last week, but back to being the same old Jets this week.
Yeah, man. I was gonna say the Jets are who we thought they were, and this is kind of what I expected, man. Cincinnati starting out 0-2, defending AFC champions, playing the Jets, man. They just had to come out and not only get a win, but just look good. And the Bengals look like the better team, you know, from start to finish. And I feel like that's just kind of what we expected this week. You know, the Jets pulled it out last week, but I don't think very many people outside of Jets fans were buying into the Jets too much. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, the Jets are who we thought they were, and that's not very good. Good win for the Bengals. I mean, obviously, starting out 0-3, you can't do that. Bengals had to get, you know, a check mark in the win column. Jets, you know, great opportunity for them to do that. If the Bengals would have came out and lost this game to the Jets, I would have real concerns for that team. But, yeah, not much of a surprise today in this one. It's kind of how I saw it going.
Yeah, this was the Bengals were pretty heavy. I mean, -5, they covered that, and then some. Joe Burrow back to doing Joey B stuff, 275 for 3 touchdowns. Joe Mixon, 12 carries for 24 yards. I mean, getting to the passing game, huge game for Tyler Boyd today. 4 receptions, 105 for a touchdown. T. Higgins, 5 receptions, 93 yards. Jamar Chase doing, 6 receptions for only 29 yards, but had a touchdown. You get into the Jets, obviously not much there to even talk about. Fortunately, their stud receiver Garrett Wilson did leave the game. He got injured. Had 6 catches for 60 yards. Michael Carter, 11 catches for 39 yards. Breece Hall, only 8 carries for 39. Breece Hall did have 6 catches for 53 yards, but other than that, just not much. I mean, Joe Flacco, back to being old Joe Flacco, 285 yards, but had the 2 picks. Johnny, what's your thoughts here on Bengals and Jets?
No, I think Craig said it all with the Jets are who we thought they were. They got lucky last week with that come from behind win against the Browns. So they should be 0-3, but a win is a win. They pulled it out last week, but they came right back to reality this week. And the Bengals definitely needed this win here. They're playing Thursday night against my Dolphins on a short week in Cincinnati, so there's a very good chance, not for nothing, for Cincinnati to pick up another win there. It's going to be a hard game for Miami to turn around, especially after that slugfest with Buffalo this week. So Cincinnati definitely needed this game, and I mean they did what they were supposed to do. They handled a Jets team that offensively has Joe Flacco at quarterback. I feel bad for the Wilson kid. Hopefully he's all right. But yeah, I mean the Jets are the Jets, bro. So I wasn't expecting them to even give Cincinnati a game here. So I'm surprised it was only 15. The game was over at halftime if you really look at it, bro.
It really was. I mean, this was a game that the Bengals had to have. I mean, they laid the egg against the Cowboys last week, and so they had to come out and show, hey, we are here. We are the team that went to Super Bowl last year. Much better game for the offensive line for the Bengals. It's going to take some time still, but hey, I mean, that game was pretty much what we thought it was going to be. Speaking of another game that we thought was going to be, the Eagles were heavy favorites here. They were 6.5. So I mean, they covered. They just beat down the Commanders 24-8. Johnny, I mean, what's your thoughts here? Eagles looking really good. Jalen Hurts. I mean, you want to talk about an MVP candidate? It could be, another guy here making a case.
Yeah, he is definitely balling out, and I mean, the Eagles were my pick to win that division. I wasn't expecting them to be this prolific on the offense, and for all those people that said Jalen Hurts can't throw the ball, 22 of 35, 340 at 3 touchdowns, no picks. I mean, this was a whooping. This is another one that was over at halftime, and Washington had no kind of chance. And Carson Wentz went back to basically being Carson Wentz. I don't know. I mean, that was pretty bad for the Commanders. I expected more of a fight than that, especially at home. But Philly looks like they're for real this year. And yeah, Jalen Hurts is putting up some numbers. They're scoring points. So yeah, I like this Philly squad.
Yeah, I mean, Jalen Hurts, 340 yards, 3 touchdowns. He's making me eat a lot of crow. I said the kid was inaccurate. Well, he's 22 of 35, 340 yards, 3 touchdowns. So, yeah, he learned to throw a football, Nick. I mean, out of the running game, I mean, the 15 carries for 46 yards for Miles Sanders, 9 carries for 20 yards for Jalen Hurts. You look at the passing game, huge game for Devontae Smith. 8 receptions, 169 yards, 1 touchdown. A.J. Brown, 5 receptions, 85 yards, and a touchdown. Dallas Goedert got in the mix. I mean, Craig, you can kind of see why they went from Hurts to Wentz. Looking at, I mean, Wentz's stat line, 211, no interceptions, no touchdowns. The only lone touchdown they got was Antonio Gibson, 12 carries for 38 yards. They were just behind. Terry McLaurin got going late, 6 receptions for 102, but Craig, I mean, 3 years ago it was, maybe they shouldn't go to, Hurts, but now I think everybody in Philly happy that they went to Hurts and got rid of Wentz.
Yeah, I mean, even if it wasn't Hurts, I think everybody in Philly is just happy they don't have Carson Wentz anymore. But Carson Wentz under duress the entire game today, sacked 9 times and hit 17 times. Philly scored all 24 points in the second quarter, and then it was like the Commanders just had to drop Carson Wentz back, and he just didn't have enough time to get anything developed downfield. Defensive line was all over him. And, yeah, I mean, Philly looks good. Their offense looks good. They've got a lot of weapons. So if Jalen Hurts can keep, throwing for 3 touchdowns, no picks, Philly's going to be an issue there. 3-0 start. Obviously, tomorrow night's game's a big deal in that division. But, I mean, starting out 3-0 is right where Philly wants to be. Like I said, all 24 points in the second quarter. Philly seems like they've kind of been a hot first half team. So they're going to have to, put it together all 4 quarters. I feel like they had a big benefit here with the Commanders just not being able to provide any protection on Carson Wentz once Philly got up big. I picked Philly on the money line. I picked Washington to cover because I thought this game was going to be a little bit closer than it was. But this is what you get with Carson Wentz. He'll come out and give you a great performance and throw for 4 touchdowns, and then you're going to get a couple stinkers right after it. So not a believer in the Commanders, but man, this Philly team looks good. They definitely look like a team to watch out for in the NFC.
Speaking of teams that you were once believers in and no longer believers in, the Panthers, your boy Baker comes out. They put it on the Saints. It took a while for the Saints offense to even score any points. They said that the Saints were next to the Commanders were the last team to score points of the day, and then the Saints were next to them. But Panthers win 22-14. Craig, you back on the Baker Show here after jumping off?
No. I might just be slightly falling off the Saints train a little bit. I kind of thought the Saints would be a little bit better. I mean, Jameis Winston threw for a bunch of yards, but like you said, man, they couldn't score no points. They were shut out the first 3 quarters against Carolina, and Carolina just hadn't shown me much this year to be impressed with. So I kind of worry about, where the Saints are after this performance today.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Jameis did throw for 353 yards, but more importantly, the 2 interceptions. I tried telling Tanner and Jonathan Grisham on Monday, if you watched Buffoon and Bodkins, that Jameis isn't the answer. Jameis isn't, nowhere near to be the guy. He's still the same guy that was throwing 30 freaking interceptions in Tampa Bay. A zebra don't change its stripes. I mean, the Saints look bad with Jameis. They look bad without Sean Payton. 2 interceptions. I mean, Alvin Kamara, 15 carries for only 61 yards. Mark Ingram got the lone touchdown. You look at the receptions. I mean, Chris Olave continues to be a stud, 9 receptions for 147. Traquan Smith, the 4 receptions, 105 yards. But, I mean, Jarvis Landry, nowhere to be found. Michael Thomas only had 5 receptions. Then you get into the Panthers here. Baker, not great. Only 170 yards for 1 touchdown. More importantly, no interceptions. But Christian McCaffrey continues to be that stud that everybody thought he was going to be. 25 carries, 108 yards. Limp Biscuit, I call him Limp Biscuit Chenault, 2 receptions for 90 yards and a lone touchdown. I mean, it's not like the Panthers were great, Johnny, on offense either. But what's your kind of thoughts here in Saints Panthers?
I think it's 2 bad teams, to be quite honest. I wasn't a believer at all in Jameis Winston. I was right there with you, Nick. I was telling people that Jameis is not the answer, that they are definitely going to feel the loss of Sean Payton, and everybody, Dennis Allen is that don't matter. Dennis Allen is a defensive guy, and offensively is where they have a problem because Jameis is going to do Jameis stuff. I'm surprised with the lack of touches that Kamara, I know he was, he didn't play last week because of the injury, but I don't know. I don't know what's going on with him. I mean, it was only a 13-point game all the way to the 4th quarter. So I don't know why they abandoned the running game and felt like they had to throw it so much. But I mean, if you're going to trust Jameis Winston to win you games, you ain't going to win a lot of games. So I'm not a great game from the Panthers either. Like I said, it was two bad teams, playing it out here in Carolina. Not much of a surprise, except I mean, I'm happy for Christian McCaffrey. He seems healthy and, he's balling out pretty good. Baker didn't have to do much, but the Saints is just they're not a very good team this year, in my opinion. I've been trying to tell people.
Craig, I mean, Kenny kind of asked, or somebody in the chat, I popped it up there. What happened to Alvin Kamara? Where's the Alvin Kamara at? I mean, is he still in the Vegas jail from beating up that guy? Or will the real Alvin Kamara please stand up? Because I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah, I mean, the Saints, if you're the Saints, you gotta get Kamara involved if you want that offense to get going. But I mean, he is coming off that injury, so I mean that might play a big part in it. We don't really know. I feel like if Alvin Kamara is 100%, I mean, New Orleans knows they've got to utilize him. I mean, that guy's got to touch the ball 15, 20 times a game just to get your offense going in the right direction. I mean, outside of that, I mean, they've got some weapons, but they got, old man, the veteran Jarvis Landry, Michael Thomas, who has only seen the field a couple games in the last basically 2 years, and then a really good-looking rookie in Olave. So, I mean, Alvin Kamara is kind of the heartbeat of that offense still. So if they want to have any success, they got to get him involved.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get into the shocker of the day, folks. The Jacksonville Jaguars go clear across the country, go into San Diego, who was -7, the favorite, and just poo on the Chargers. I mean, 38-10. Johnny, I mean, Justin Herbert was hurt, but played the whole game. And I mean, are the Jags for real here? 38-10. Jacksonville looks like a real football team.
They absolutely do. They actually have a real head coach as opposed to the I don't want to say the crap show or the turd show like you would say last year with the whole Urban Meyer thing. I've been telling people about this too. I love Doug Peterson. I love the fact that he's going to be working with Trevor Lawrence. I think that's the best thing that ever happened to Trevor Lawrence was Doug Peterson being his head coach. He knows the position. He's got a Super Bowl ring, so he's bringing stability to that team. They got a lot of young, good pieces. They just needed some discipline and some leadership, and I think Doug Peterson is going to do that. I actually thought Jacksonville was going to win this game. I didn't think they were going to beat them down, but Justin. He played okay, but I mean, I don't know how hurt he really is. I mean, I know it's torn cartilage or something like that in his ribs. So I don't know, man, but if he's going to play like that, they're going to have a problem in this division. Like we've been talking about. I wasn't expecting the ass whooping, but I was expecting Jackson. I picked Jacksonville to win this game.
Well, I mean, you were on something there, Johnny. Trevor Lawrence, Craig, I mean, 262, 3 touchdowns. James Robinson, 17 carries, 100 yards, 1 touchdown. ETN got in the act, 13 carries for 45. Zay Jones, 10 receptions, 85 yards, 1 touchdown. Christian Kirk continues to be a hot hand, 6 receptions, 72 yards, 1 touchdown. Marvin Jones, 4 receptions, 33 yards, and touchdown. ETN had 3 receptions. You get to the Chargers, again, not much offense. I mean, Austin Eckler only 4 carries for 5 yards. Herbert 297, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. They they shut down. Mike Williams only had 1 catch. We know that Keenan Allen didn't play. I mean, Jaguars just I'm almost speechless here because how good Trevor Lawrence looked like he's like the guy we all thought he was back in Clemson. Now that he's got a head coach, I don't even know what to say here. Speak up for your boy Herbert and the Chargers, Craig.
Hey, so on the pre-show, I mean, I took the Chargers to win the game, but I took the Jags to cover. And I said, I mean, the Jags have looked all right, and we don't know what kind of shape Justin Herbert's in. And as the week went on, I just kind of felt like this was a game that he probably shouldn't have played in. They got one of the better backups in the league there. And, I mean, why put him out there? And then, I mean, Justin Herbert, you look at the stat line, it's a pretty good stat line, but you watch him play, man, it wasn't Justin Herbert out there. So I'm surprised even when this game kind of started getting out of hand a little bit that they didn't just pull him out of there. you asked earlier in the group, are the Jaguars for real, man? And I said in the South, I think they're for real. In the AFC, I don't know if I'm ready to go there yet. But I'm ready to say Doug Peterson is a for real head coach, man. He's got something going there in Jacksonville. He definitely came in and changed the culture and did it quickly, man. And having that many young players, that many high draft picks that they've had, they've got a bunch of talent on that team. So a guy like Doug Peterson has almost proven to be perfect. The big takeaway I have here is that the Jaguars are proving that they can score points, man. The Chargers defense is supposed to be one of the better in the conference. And I mean, they hung 38 on them. I expected the Chargers offense to look sluggish today, especially whenever I found out Justin Herbert was playing, because I know it was a long week, man, but the end of that Chiefs game, I mean, he just looked like he was in a lot of pain. And like I said, I mean, I think the choice to play him this week was a little bit sketchy already. So I had the Jags covering. I did have the Chargers winning this game. I did not expect the Chargers to lose by 28. Shoot, even if Herbert didn't play, I would think that the Chargers would have a closer game than that against Jacksonville.
Johnny, I mean, were you surprised? I was surprised they still had Herbert out there in the fourth late, being down that much as he was hurt. Were you surprised at that as well, or even surprised that the kid played?
I was about to say I'm with Craig, bro. I'm surprised that he even played. Like, I mean, that's your franchise right there. So, I mean, I understand they had an extra couple of days because they played, on the Thursday game, but I mean, he looked like he was in some serious pain when he had that injury. So, I mean, why take the chance? And then, you leave him in there the whole game. I mean, I don't know, man. I got to question that head coach. I mean, there was already questions with some of the decisions that he makes in the game, but then to decide to play your franchise quarterback when he clearly ain't 100%. And what happened to this defense that everybody was talking about? I mean, again, like you said, how are you going to have Austin Eckler with 4 carries? Like, come on, man. Like, the game plan wasn't very good.
Out there hurt, right. Man. Lean on the game,
Exactly.
Yeah, Kenny's kind of saying it here too, and I think we're all kind of in agreement. Week 3 shouldn't matter enough to put the playoffs in jeopardy, right? Like, he goes out there and takes another mean hit. I mean, it's a danger. You know what I mean?
That's a wrap. Yeah. If they lose Herbert, it's over.
Yeah, and they can't.
He's letting that ball go just a little bit early because he's trying to protect from them hits. Right. I mean, you see like you did today with 20 incompletions, and I mean, just not the Justin Herbert that we know as 100% Justin Herbert.
Yeah, we saw a similar situation as the Browns and Baker last year, right? Like, Baker probably should have sat out more games and tried to play and just looked bad. I'm not saying, hopefully that's not what happens here to the Chargers, but we've seen this kind of play out on some other teams, and I think that's what could happen here. I mean, Jacksonville, first place, I never thought we'd say this, first place at 2-1 in the AFC South. Fortunately for the Chargers, at least the Chiefs lost. Everybody in that division, that so-called AFC West, which preseason everybody annoyed and including myself as the best division in football. Well, guess what? They all taken L's to the AFC South today. So and the Broncos are losing right now 7-5 to the 49ers. So hey,
that's an ugly one too. But yeah, man, I mean, that's your franchise, man. You gotta let him sit that one out, man. Like I said, Staley has to be on the hot seat, bro. If they if they don't make the playoffs, or if something worse, if Justin Herbert winds up getting hurt worse in the next few weeks or something because they just keep throwing him out there, I mean, his seat has to be warming up already.
If they can't make the playoffs, I mean, the Chargers have. This is the mold that's supposed to take you to the Super Bowl. They're riding the young franchise quarterback. They spent all the money on the defense. They got the weapons on the offense. They went and spent money on the O-line to protect him. They're supposed to be making Super Bowl runs. So if they can't make the playoffs, man, this has got to be the end of this year. He's got to be out of town.
Johnny, you'll have to ask Rob when you guys do your post-game show tonight, how hot and how, what's the panic meter there in LA? So
I definitely will. Trust me. You think? What do you think about? Because I think if they don't make the playoffs, I think he's gone. Do you think Sean Payton goes out there, or is he definitely going to Dallas?
Hey, Jerry's going to throw a lot of money at him to go to Dallas.
Yeah, Mike McCarthy's just keeping that seat warm for him right now.
Speaking of a coach that should be on the hot seat, that's Cliff Kingsbury in Arizona. Outside of maybe a fourth quarter collapse of the Raiders, this Cardinals team should be 0-3, but they fall to 1-2 today as they just get owned by the Rams, 20-12. I think like Sean McVay is undefeated against the Cardinals. Craig, what's your thoughts here? And Rams, Cardinals, Rams continue to. Cooper Kupp just continues to do Cooper Kupp things, right?
Yeah, I guess we're not surprised when the Rams beat the Cardinals because, like you said, that's what Sean McVay does. He always beats the Cardinals. Cliff Kingsbury can't beat him. Just seems like that's how this game is supposed to end up. We kind of talked about it last week, man. Arizona has only looked good for about a quarter and a half all season. So it was kind of tough coming into this game. I don't think the Rams looked great. They didn't impress me a ton with the way that they looked. But sometimes in division games, you just got to grind out a gritty one. The Rams were able to do that. And, I agree with you, man. Cliff Kingsbury's seat's got to be getting a little bit warm.
Yeah, Stafford, 249, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Cam Akers, 12 carries, 69 yards, 1 touchdown. Cooper Kupp even had a rushing touchdown. He had 4 receptions for 44 yards. Allen Robinson only had 2 catches for 23 yards. I keep saying, people keep saying pick up Allen Robinson. I asked on our pregame show today that, is that the right play? Because we keep saying that and it's still a no-show. Kyler Murray, 314 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. James Conner, 13 carries for 39 yards. Marquise Brown had a huge game, but 14 receptions for 140. Johnny, these Cardinals look awful. Are they just need D-Hop to come back? Because that's the only time they look halfway normal, like a competent football team.
Well, they definitely miss him, but for them to be this bad without him, that's an issue, in my opinion. Like, I don't understand how Cliff Kingsbury and the general manager both got extensions this offseason. What has Cliff shown us to warrant an extension?
What has any of those guys shown you? Their GM, their quarterback, and their coach.
That's what I'm saying. Right. I'm not.
With Cliff Kingsbury, you're not supposed to get fired in college and get hired in the pros the same offseason.
And he's supposed to be an offensive person, and you don't score a touchdown, you just got 4 field goals in this game. Kyler had 300 yards and Marquise had, but those were mostly garbage yards towards the end of the game. I'm not high on Kyler Murray. I don't know, and they just gave him an extension. D-Hop, of course, is going to make a difference when he comes back because he's just that good. But I don't think the Cardinals are going anywhere this year. Like I said, I'm surprised that Cliff got the extension. His seat should have been definitely hot this year. I don't know what that owner is thinking over there, but yeah, I'm not big on the Cardinals at all. I wouldn't be surprised if they're last in their division this year, and don't be surprised if you start hearing about D-Hop not being happy in Arizona.
All right, let's get into another game. Falcons get their first win of the year, 27-23 over the Seahawks here, Johnny. What's your thoughts here? This game really, I don't think either one of these two teams aren't going to mean much at the end of the year, but Atlanta gets its nice first win of the year here.
Neither one of these teams are going to do anything, as far as playoff implications or anything like that. But I like the pieces Atlanta's putting together. They put up some points. Kyle Pitts finally had a game, 5 for 87. I'm not the biggest on Marcus Mariota, but like I said, I like some of the pieces that Atlanta has, and they put up some points. But it was actually a pretty entertaining game for being two type teams. But Atlanta got their first victory, so happy for the Falcons fans. But it's two last place teams in their divisions battling it out. So I don't know how much more you could have expected for that, but it was actually an entertaining game there.
Yeah, Mariota had 13 of 20, 229 yards, 1 touchdown. Cordell Patterson over 17 carries, 141 yards, 1 touchdown. Mariota also had a rushing touchdown. You mentioned it. Kyle Pitts, 5 receptions at 87 yards. Drake London, 3 receptions, 54 yards, 1 touchdown. You look at the Seahawks here. Geno, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, threw for 325 yards. Rashard Penny, 14 carries for 66. The receiving, DK, 5 catches for 64 and a touchdown. Tyler Lockett, 9 receptions, 76 yards. Craig, I mean, Seattle looked real good week 1, but I mean, outside of the Falcons haven't looked too bad here in the first 3 weeks. They should have won week 1, gave that up. But I mean, what's your thoughts here on Atlanta and Seattle?
Yeah, Atlanta's kind of giving me some Detroit vibes, man. I feel like they've got the tools to stay in a bunch of games, and they're just going to find ways to lose a bunch. Fortunately for them today, they were playing Seattle, man, and I just don't think Seattle's very good. I said it after week 1. That was the best Seattle team that we're going to see was Russ coming in week 1. I just feel like, the Seahawks are who they are, man. I mean, personnel becomes an issue, and they just don't have a lot of pieces. And Johnny was talking about D-Hop being unhappy. I mean, DK is probably right next in line there for when he's going to be wanting out of Seattle. Geno Smith, a decent day today. But kind of like Johnny was alluding to, man, Atlanta's got some pieces. If there's one thing we know, Cordero Patterson as a running back is a real thing in the NFL. I don't know why it took teams so long to figure that out, but Atlanta kind of hit the nail on the head using him as a running back. 17 carries, 141 yards. I mean, you'll take that. They've got weapons. Kyle Pitts finally showing up. Drake London, good wide receiver. Marcus Mariota's not the future. They drafted a quarterback there, but like I said, Atlanta's got the pieces to stay in a bunch of games. So I feel like they might be – Kenny's alluded to it before. They might be a team that's going to cover a lot. But at the end of the day, I don't think they're going to win a ton of games. But I do think the better team won today. I think Atlanta's better than Seattle. So.
Yeah, I think you're right on the money. Let's move into the last late game of the day. It was ugly for my Packers. It was uglier than the only thing uglier than this game was my last girlfriend. So, but the Packers able to get a win. Brady leads the team down, scores a touchdown. They try to go for 2 to tie it. They don't get it. Green Bay holds 14-12. I mean, Johnny, my Packers able to hold this out. Their defense looked really good. Not much offense on either side here. But what's your thoughts here, Packers and the Bucs? Bucs continue offensively to struggle through 3 games here.
Yeah, I was a little surprised by that. Not to struggle in this game. I think the Packers defense is a pretty good defense, but yeah, the Bucs offense has not looked good most of the season. I know they got a couple injuries on offense, but it was a defensive showing there. I mean, your Packers did just enough to get the win there. I don't know. I'm starting to question whether or not Brady is thinking that he should have just stood home with Giselle and the kids and just called it a career. Because I don't know, that Bucs team does not look very motivated to me. I live in the area, and you hear some of the stuff on the radio stuff. They're just there's a lot of questions about the Bucs. Luckily, they're playing in that division, which with the Saints, Panthers, and Atlanta that we just talked about. So I mean, I think they're going to win the division by default. But I don't think the Bucs are very good this year. Their defense is going to be a good defense, but I mean, they're going to win games. Like I said, they're going to win the division, like I said, by default because the rest of the division sucks. But I don't know. I'm not feeling the Bucs at all this year. I don't know, man. I mean, it was a good win for your squad. You needed this win here, and like I said, your team did just enough to win this game, and stop that 2-point conversion. That was huge because I know you were stressing there at the end.
I was. I mean, my butthole was tighter than if I ever went to prison. That's for sure. Aaron Rodgers, 255, 2 touchdowns. I mean, the running game, there was no running game, and that's just the Bucs defense. They're going to stop the run. Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon both had 12 carries, but nothing of any substance. Romeo Doubs, I mean, he had led the way with the Packers, 8 receptions for 73 yards and a touchdown. Alan Lazard, 4 catches for 45 and a touchdown. Bucs, only 3 offensive touchdowns. all season. Tom Brady threw one today, and that went to Russell Gage, who had a huge game, 12 receptions, 87 yards. Leonard Fournette still had 12 carries, 35 yards. I mean, Johnny kind of alluded that the Bucs offense, we know that they're missing guys, but man, they just look bad right now.
Yeah, they don't look good. I mean, they're missing everybody. Tom Brady's missing all his options, man. I mean, Mike Evans has been his guy since he's been in Tampa. He doesn't have Gronk this year. Chris Godwin's hurt. Julio Jones is hurt. And Tom Brady wasn't there for any of camp or preseason or anything like that. I kind of said it in our preseason show. I thought the Bucs were going to come out of the gate kind of slow and sloppy this year. And, I mean, it's Tom Brady, man. Tom Brady is, 45 now? He knows that this is a marathon. He knows that, come December, he just wants to be playing great football on a good team. And I think that's kind of the Bucs' goal. Just getting everybody healthy and get rolling at the right time. I think they know that they can do that offensively, and right now their defense looks good enough, to compete with the top of the league. So if Tampa's offense can get clicking and their defense can hold teams, like Green Bay to 14 points, then Tampa's going to be in pretty good shape. Rodgers said after the game that their offense felt like they had to get 21 to win the game. They felt fortunate that 14 was enough. But the Bucs just couldn't get it going. I mean, to me, too, you got a guy like Tom Brady. I mean, the GOAT there at quarterback. How do you not have that 2-point conversion play? I mean, already ready. How do you take a delay a game there on that play when you got Tom Brady at quarterback? I mean, I understand no timeouts. They didn't have any time to get anything ready, but that play's got to be ready well before you even score a touchdown. And they really got lucky because they could have got a delay a game there on the touchdown play. It was pretty close. And then they follow it up with the 2-point conversion with the delay a game, man. That's just bad coaching. And you would just think, man, Tom Brady being the guy under center, that just would never happen.
Yeah. 2 years ago, remember when Brady was holding up the 4 against the Bears? I think they were at that point.
I was going to bring that up. That's kind of what I got vibes from, like when Brady didn't know what down it was there in an early game in the season.
Yeah, and I think that season, remember, I was like, you and Kenny, because I was like, the marriage isn't working between him and Bruce Arians. Well, that backfired because that's the year they won. Then they went on to win the freaking Super Bowl. They started off slow that year. I think that's kind of the similar situation. They're in the similar situation as Green Bay. They're going to start off slow. They have 2 aging quarterbacks. They don't have any receivers to speak of. Now, the thing is, the Bucs are going to get some receivers back, especially when Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and them boys are healthy and ready. Evans obviously was just suspended because him and Lattimore got into it last week. The Packers still got to develop guys. Dubes looks like a guy. Christian Watson was out today. Sammy Watkins is already on the IR. So, I mean, they're kind of – I figure both these two teams will start off slow, and here they are. I mean, Green Bay 2-1, tied for first. The Bucs only 1 win, but are 2-1 as well. I guess this was their first loss. So, but just haven't looked great. They'll figure it out. I 100% believe in December they'll be right there, and they'll be just fine.
I read also that Todd Bowles said Julio Jones probably could have played today, but they just kept him out for just caution reasons because it's Julio Jones. But that makes me feel like when you already don't have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, and you're not pushing Julio out there to play, man, Tampa's playing the long game, I think.
Yeah, they're doing the exact opposite of the Chargers, Johnny. They're resting guys, saying, "Hey, it's week freaking 3. We're not going to play. We don't want our guys getting hurt." Where the Chargers are saying, "Hey, you got 3 broken ribs, Justin Herbert. We'll play you to the 4th quarter until we're getting blown out."
Yeah, I was just about to say that if it's almost like they didn't mind taking the L in this one if they were going to hold Julio like that when they're already shorthanded. And I agree with Kenny, what he said in the comments. Yeah, by the end of the year, they're going to be playing better. Tom Brady is notorious. Even when he was in New England, they always came out to slow starts. So, I mean, I'm sure they're going to turn it around. I honestly worry about the coaching when it comes down to situational football, like what happened with the 2-point conversion. You know what I'm saying? So I wouldn't be surprised if that rears its ugly head towards the end of the season or even possibly in the playoffs. But I still just the offense just looks off, man. And if it wasn't for the fumble, when Aaron Jones fumbled right there in the end zone, I mean,
it would have been 21-3. Yeah, it would have been 21-3.
They're not even, the game would have been over right there. So, I mean, yeah, the Bucs made it close there at the end, and they had a chance for the 2-point conversion, but the defense is the only reason why they were even in this game. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they pull it together towards the end of the season. But I like Todd Bowles. He's got Miami ties and stuff, but I don't know, man. I don't trust him with some of the game time situations. I'm not a big fan.
All right, boys, you know what time it is. It is time for our Dogs of the Week. All right. Craig, go ahead and give me your Dog of the Week.
Man, there's a bunch of options out there. I'm going to throw my honorable mention out to my hometown home team, Roquan Smith, with that late pick. But my Dogs of the Week, and I say dogs because it's plural, it's the entire Miami Dolphins defense, because that Miami Dolphins defense was on the field against Buffalo for 90 snaps and only allowed them to score 3 times. They scored 17 points, and they forced 4 fumbles. They didn't get any interceptions, like Johnny alluded to earlier. They had some opportunities for some, but man, that defense, if you're going to play the way Buffalo's offense looked the first 2 weeks, and you're going to play 90 snaps against that offense, and you're going to hold them to under 20 points, man. I mean, that's incredible performance, incredible bend, don't break today out of Miami Dolphins defense. And if not for the defense, they don't win the game, man. So my Dogs of the Week's going to that Dolphins defense.
Johnny, who's your Dog of the Week, my man?
I'm gonna bite off of Craig a little bit too and give you an honorable mention here. On your Bears, Khalil Herbert, 20 carries, 157 yards, 2 touchdowns, basically won the game for the Bears. So props to him. But Lamar is my dog. I mean, this is 2 games back to back where he had over 100 yards rushing and a touchdown. He threw in 18 for 29, 218 yards and 4 passing touchdowns. Lamar wants to get paid, and he is definitely my dog for this week.
Yeah, Kenny's dog was the Jacksonville Jaguars. And my dog of the day goes to Jalen Hurts. I said it earlier. I have to apologize to him because I said he couldn't throw a football. Well, the man is dogged up, and he's proved me wrong. He threw for 340 yards, 3 touchdowns as the Eagles just absolutely put it on the Commanders. Jalen Hurts, my Dog of the Week. For Jalen Hurts.
Hey, I love the dog mask. That's a great touch.
Yeah, that's a good one, bro. Good job there.
All right, let's go ahead and get into it. Johnny, what's your turd of the week?
We talked about it not so long ago. I'm going to give it to Cliff Kingsbury, to be totally honest. I'm not a big fan of his. He's supposed to be an offensive genius, and they had 4 field goals today, and they haven't looked good on offense at all. I know they're missing D-Hop, but I am not a Cliff Kingsbury fan at all. And yes, he is my turd of the week. They didn't even look prepared in that game, to be quite honest, man. It was a close game, 20-12, but it wasn't that close if you were watching the game.
Craig, who's your turd of the week here?
Real quick before I give you mine, I feel like Johnny's turd of the week was freaking spot on. Cliff Kingsbury was on my list because, man, I remember when Lovie Smith was the head coach of the Chicago Bears and he got fired because they said, hey, you can win as many games as you want, but you got to be able to beat Green Bay. And Cliff Kingsbury got to be able to beat Sean McVay, right? I mean, that's why they brought him in, and he just still cannot get the job done. So I feel like that's a great turd this week. But I'm going with the Washington Commanders offensive line as an entire unit. They let Carson Wentz get sacked 9 times and take 17 quarterback hits today. You're never going to win a game when you're letting your quarterback get beat up like that. Whenever you're trailing and you know Carson Wentz has got to drop back and make some throws to get your team back in it, you got to find ways to protect him. So offensive line coach, offensive line unit, all of them, turds of the week, man. They let Carson Wentz get destroyed.
Yeah, so my big turd of the week goes to the Las Vegas Raiders. Okay, you make the big splash for Davante Adams. You take him from me, and you put him on your team. He wants to play with his boyfriend, his best friend, Derek Carr. Well, guess what? What's Derek Carr doing for you, Davante? He's losing to the freaking Titans, okay? They bring in Josh McDaniels. I said keep Bisaccia because those guys – Coach Bisaccia, those guys wanted to play for him. What he endured in Las Vegas last year, no coach could endure that, and they made the playoffs. Now look at you. You're 0-3. You're not going to make the playoffs. You're going to finish dead last in what's so-called the best division in football, and you can't even beat the Titans. You coughed it up against Arizona last week. The Raiders are my big old fat poopy turd of the week because they're can't even feed Davante. They bring all this money in, and Davante and the Raiders, Carr, McDaniels, big old turds. Take that out, whatever Davis you are.
I think it's
How much of last year was them just kind of riding that train? Sometimes things like that in sports almost help the team. Like you said, man, he should have definitely got more consideration to bring back as the head coach, man, because that whole team rallied last year.
All right, let's go ahead. You got something else, Johnny?
Well, I think the owner just wanted to make a splash with the whole Josh McDaniels pickup because – like you said, you had a coach right there that the players wanted to play for. So
100%.
That's the Raiders way, though, right? The Raiders just want to make a splash. That's what they do.
Yeah. Well, you can splash 0-3. So
hey,
be happy with that.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, I've seen some girls make some big splashes in the pool. Don't mean they're pretty. It's time for you guys know what time it is. Here it is. Fantasy Corner. Did that play out or no?
Yeah,
it did. Okay. Jeez, it didn't play out on my computer. Stupid computer. All right, Craig, let's go ahead and get into it. How'd your starts and sits do today? And then give us your Kenny, I forgot. Kenny did say his turd was the Saints. My bad. He just chimed in there. But Craig, how'd your start sits do for this week?
So I haven't had a chance to check all of them. I know I had Darnell Mooney on my sit list, and I know he had another crapper of a fantasy day. I know David Njoku was my sit tight end of the week, and he balled out on Thursday. Had his best game of the year. So, but yeah, I know Kenny will have the updates on our Wednesday show from this week. Like I said, I haven't had a chance to go back and check all my start sits to kind of see how I've done on those.
Okay. You got any waiver wires you're looking at right now?
Yeah, so right now I've actually got him on my team. He's only owned in 31% of leagues, but Jamal Williams is a big pickup right now. Coming into this week, he was already a top 30 running back in fantasy football in the first 2 weeks. He's definitely looks like he is the goal line running back there. He's been getting way more carries than Swift has in the red zone, and they're not shy to use him. And then here early, Swift has kind of been babying a foot injury, and Jamal Williams, they trust him and they like him. So they're not scared to give him the ball and let DeAndre Swift heal up a little bit. And even last year, man, MCDC seemed like he was okay with using both those running backs in a two-back system, and both of them put up pretty good fantasy numbers last year. So when I saw that Jamal Williams was only owned in 31% of the leagues, man, I was pretty surprised. And after his performance today, man, I think he's one of the guys you got to go out there and get.
Yeah, I would say Alexander Madison is a guy that you probably need to, if you don't already have him and you're a Dalvin Cook owner, you need to go get him, because Dalvin Cook, separated shoulder, going to try to play with the brace, but I think that's going to limit him. Kenny's chiming in here. His must starts combined for 4 points so far. So, hey, we're going to just chalk that up to the man was dealing with a baby coming and, isn't solely focused on.
I was gonna say he's distracted, bro. He's distracted. He's got other stuff in mind.
Melvin Gordon on my must-sit list, and as we speak, he just scored a touchdown. So I'd say that one's probably not looking great for me at the moment either.
All right, Craig, give me your fantasy stud of the day.
There was a few of them out there, man, but my stud of the day for fantasy, I got to go with Devontae Smith, man. Especially because the first 2 weeks, man, if you're the Devontae Smith owner, you were kind of feeling a little bit uneasy. He hasn't had a real huge game yet, and that offense has looked really good. So he broke out today. He was only projected a little over 10 points, and he had 32, 8 catches, 169 yards, and a touchdown. Huge game for Devontae Smith. So he's taking my fantasy stud this week.
Yeah, Kenny's. I'm gonna read his off real quick here. His stud is Trevor Lawrence, projected QB 15 finish, QB 3 so far. His waiver wire pickup is Khalil Herbert, obviously with Monty being shaken up, and Johnny gave that dog out to Khalil Herbert. So give it up for, look out for Khalil Herbert. And then his dud here is Justin Jefferson, and that's just because two dud games back-to-back here by Double J. John, you got a fantasy stud you want to chime in here real quick?
Well, I mean, the sad part is that I picked him up this morning and forgot to put him in the game, but Chase Edmonds had 2 touchdowns today, and I could have definitely used those points because I'm pretty sure I lost my fantasy this week, but nah, that's pretty much it for me for fantasy, man. Like I said, I can't even remember to put dudes in the game.
All right, Craig, before we get out of here, give me your dud of the week.
My dud of the week. Sorry, Johnny. No offense to your team. You boys got the win, but I'm putting Tyreek as my dud of the week just because it's Tyreek. He was projected at 18.5 this week, and he only scored 5 points. Only 4 targets, 2 catches. I mean, a lot of that was just kind of the game that Miami, played today, and it worked for them. Like Johnny said, Chase Edmonds, big day today. They were able to kind of show that it doesn't have to be the Tyreek and Waddle show for Miami to pull a win out. I think that's kind of why Kenny went with JJ also, because when you got Justin Jefferson or Tyreek Hill, these guys are supposed to be your guarantees in fantasy every week. So when you only get 5 points out of Tyreek, man, that kind of kicking the nuts,
Mm-hmm. All right, boys. Before we get out of here, Johnny, give me your one last takeaway here for week 3.
Well, besides my Dolphins coming up with a big win against the Bills, it was definitely due after 7 straight losses. But I'm gonna give it up to Jacksonville putting the beat down on the Chargers. Like I said, I'm a little concerned with the fact that the Chargers even played Justin Herbert in this game, but Jacksonville put it on them, and so I got to give props to Trevor Lawrence, Doug Peterson, and that whole Jacksonville squad, man. They put a whooping on the Chargers today.
Craig, what's your last takeaway? One takeaway here from week 3.
My takeaway, we kind of talked about it, or at least touched on it earlier, is just the AFC West as a whole. We talked about this division is supposed to be the best division in football, the cream of the crop. Maybe every team in the division making the playoffs, and here we are in week 3. No division games, and every AFC West team could lose. Denver's in a tight one right now, so it depends how that goes. But right now, so far, AFC West 0-3 on the day against teams outside of that division. So that's kind of my takeaway for the week.
Yeah, my takeaway is that the offseason and all the hype and hoopla means jack squat, right? I mean, the AFC West was the best division. The Jaguars probably could pick, first round pick again and, this and that. Well, you know what? End of the day, you got to play it on the field, baby. And that's just kind of what it is, man. That's kind of, we don't know nothing about nothing. That's what that is. Well, Johnny, go ahead and get them last little bit of plugs in and we'll get out of here.
I appreciate that. I'll be right on in about 20 minutes or so to recap this 49er Bronco game that looks like it's like Kenny said, it's a bit of a dud. But it's going down to the wire, so we're going to be recapping that game. Monday and Tuesday, you can catch me on Let's Talk Sports. I'll be doing the MLB recap on both of those nights. And then Wednesday, I have my Let's Talk Miami Dolphins at 8 p.m. on Let's Talk Sports, where obviously I'll have a lot to say about this Buffalo game, and I'll be previewing the Thursday night game against the Bengals on that short week. So look that up, you know what I'm saying? Like I said, you're going to see me in a few minutes. I'll be up there with my boy Rob, and we can talk about his Chargers and, how the Jacksonville put it on him.
All right, I appreciate it. Again, folks, hey, be a friend, tell a friend, share, like, subscribe. We're on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, so head over there if you want to listen. Give it a nice little 5-star rating. Be a friend, tell a friend. Hit the share button, hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell up at the top so you know when we're going live. Hey, I appreciate everybody. This has been another great episode of the Bodkin Show, our NFL Week 3. I'm excited for Week 4 next week. Craig, you got one last thing, I feel like?
No, I was just going to give a little shout out to one of our best friends of the program, Chris Landez. And his wife Paige are having a baby today. So Kenny had a baby this week. Landez having a baby this week. So better call tomorrow morning and get the old snippy snip scheduled because that baby food is in the air around the program. Congratulations to both of those. Happy, healthy little boys coming into the world. So shout out to all of them.
Yes,
yeah, congratulations, people.
100%. Kenny and the baby Bodie and Landez and Mace. Is it Mason? I believe coming into the world. They'll be holding down the podcast in about 20 years, and we'll be the old guys asking to come on. So, hey, appreciate it. Shout out to them guys. Best of luck, Landez having his first baby boy. Kenny, get some sleep if you can. Hey, for Craig, Johnny, this is another great episode of the Bodkin Show. We appreciate it, folks. I'm going to hit that outro. We'll be back. I'll be back tomorrow night, Bodkins and Buffoon, and we'll be back Wednesday with our Week 4 preview show. Hitting that outro. Y'all have a good rest of the week. See ya.